Hey love, and welcome back to the Dear Love channel, where we talk all about periods and the menstrual cycle, women's health. We cover a lot of different things here on the Dear Love channel, and I'm so grateful that you're here today. We're going to be talking about how to track your period and your menstrual cycle. And I actually have a couple of videos showing you how to do this, but I wanted to make a more concise, updated version. So let's get into it. Okay, so the easiest way to track your period and your whole menstrual cycle is using an app. I like the apps Clue and Stardust. So to track your period using an app, you just open the app, choose whatever one you like, and you just click the track button. This is the Clue app, and you would just select your flow level and it will adjust it for you. And you can also track other things throughout the entirety of your cycle. So not just the days you have your period, but the whole menstrual cycle. So they have all types of different things that you can track in here. So it's pretty intuitive to use. You track the days you have your period by selecting the heaviness of your flow here. You can also select other things that you are feeling, other symptoms you're feeling on your period. But you can also track how you feel throughout the entirety of your menstrual cycle. Because remember, your period is just one part of your menstrual cycle. It's one phase of your menstrual cycle. But your menstrual cycle is all of the time between starting your period and then getting your next period, if that makes sense. So through the entirety of your cycle, you can track how you feel, which gives you good insight into how your hormones affect you. It's really helpful to just gain more awareness of how your whole menstrual cycle affects you. Lots of good insight on the Clue app. This is the first app that I used. I've literally tracked like every single one of my periods in this app since I started my periods. So I really like this one. And then another one that I like too is called Stardust. It has kind of like an astrology vibe, and it's just kind of fun and gives you these daily, almost like horoscopes based off of where your hormones are at. So like right now I'm on day 21 of my cycle, and it says, "We've entered the sleepy portion of your cycle. Try this recipe for a human burrito. Wrap one comforter around one human. You serve warm." It's just like little silly things. So that's just like a fun little element. This is a very like lighthearted app, I would say, but you still get all the tracking ability as like the Clue app. So you just click the plus sign to track your cycle. So you would just like, if I got my period today, I would just mark it here, and then you would save it, and it kind of, calibrates. And then like the Clue app, you can also track other symptoms by clicking the little like sparkly icon: feelings, cravings, symptoms, cervical mucus, gut health, all of this kind of stuff, which you can track both when you have your period and throughout the entirety of your cycle. So if this is your vibe, you like to just keep things all on your phone, you like doing things digitally, then tracking your menstrual cycle and your period on an app might be just the most realistic way for you to stay consistent with it. Okay, so next is just using a good old-fashioned calendar to track your period and your menstrual cycle. And you're basically doing the same thing with a calendar as you are on your app. So let's open this up and I'll just quickly show you how to track your cycle using a calendar. Okay, so to track your period and your whole menstrual cycle in a calendar, you're just gonna start by marking off the days that you have your period. So let's say that I got my period today. I could just put a red dot, and it would last probably usually for me about 5 days. So these days with these red dots, all of these days, this is my period length. Whoa, my handwriting is so bad right now. But these days are my period length, okay? It's just the length of your period. Now, in order to get an idea of when your next period will come, you need to know your average cycle length. So this is the amount of time between the start of one period to the start of the next one. So if you don't know that, you will figure that out as you track multiple of your cycles. But if you do kind of know, okay, I get my period like every 28 days or so, then you could count out 28 days from the first day of your most recent period. And that will give you an idea of when your next period will come. So let's say that I have an average cycle length of 28 days. I would just count out 28 days from this first day of my most recent period. So 28. Okay, so this day is when it's likely that my period will start again. So it's nice to visually see as you're planning out your month, what days you're gonna have your period, when your next period is coming. Then that gives you an idea like, okay, like this week before I'll be in my PMS, somewhere in here I'll be ovulating. That is just such a huge benefit because your menstrual cycle affects how you feel so much. And with that, what you can also do, similar to the app, which gives you, nice little like icons to just select of how you feel, your energy levels, all that type of stuff. You can just write down if there's any significant feelings you're feeling each day of your cycle. So on your period, that might look like cramps. Or a couple of days before your period, it might look like irritability. Or somewhere mid-cycle, it might look like high energy. So tracking these types of symptoms or feelings over time gives you the ability to recognize different patterns in your cycle. So it's a great little thing to add on to, but in very basic tracking terms, you can just track the days you have your period, and that at least gives you an idea of where you're at in your cycle and when your next period will come. So that's basically the gist of how to use a calendar to track both your period and your whole menstrual cycle. Okay, now let's move into my favorite way to cycle track, and that is a more in-depth journaling practice called menstrual cycle awareness journaling. It is more in-depth and a little bit higher effort than the other two options, but it's still really simple and you can do this in like 5 minutes every evening. So in your journal every evening, you're gonna mark the date and the day of your cycle that you're on. And if you don't know what day of your cycle you're on, just wait until your next period comes, because the first day of your period is the first day of your cycle, and every cycle repeats and goes back to day 1 when your period starts again. So let's say that I am on day 25 of my cycle and it's September 1st, 2025. So this is important because this is how you're tracking the day and then therefore like the phase of the menstrual cycle that you're in. And it's nice to just give context with the date as well. So once I've written this important information up on the top, I'm gonna start my entry. All types of different stuff can be tracked in your menstrual cycle. And the reason why you were tracking this stuff is because there is such a pattern and link that you'll notice to these feelings and symptoms in relation to where your hormones are at throughout these different days of your cycle. So when we track them, we give ourselves the chance to detect patterns, which gives us a greater understanding of our bodies and how we can care for ourselves as best as we can. I'm gonna have a list of things you can consider taking note of in your menstrual cycle awareness journal entries here, so take a screenshot to reference later. Okay, so let's just do a little sample entry here. So if it's day 25 of my cycle, this would be the luteal phase. So this would be days before I start my period. So this is that prime PMS time. So from that standpoint, this entry would probably, at least for me, sound like my energy was low and my hunger was really strong. Starting to feel cramps. I feel easily irritated by people. Taking a hot Epsom salt bath did help a little though. Okay, so that's just a really super basic entry. It's listing out just how I felt, where my energy was at, symptoms I was feeling, where I was at kind of on my emotional spectrum, and something that helped me, which can be helpful for your future self on day 25 of your next cycle to know what helped you in your last cycle. Again, there's so many things that you can track in here, and you can make your entries much longer. You can make them more like diary entries where you take note of more and you give more context to what your day was like and all that kind of stuff. That is totally up to you. But that's sort of the gist of how you do this type of cycle tracking. Now, the thing that I love so much about this particular type of cycle tracking, the reason why I like it even more than an app or just like basic tracking on a calendar, is you develop a more intimate connection between yourself and your cycle. It just becomes more of like a intimate practice, and you're giving it even more of your attention and your awareness when you take a little bit more effort to do this type of tracking. Tracking your cycle in more of like a journaling sort of way, you can hear your inner voice more than in these other ways of tracking your cycle. And I think that that really helps with multiple things. I think you really become aware of your patterns, and these very like subtle patterns connected to your whole menstrual cycle, how your emotions change, how your energy shifts, how your outlook changes throughout your cycle, how the sensations in your body shift throughout your cycle. And this might not seem all too significant on the surface, but I promise you it has such far-reaching effects when it comes to self-compassion, self-literacy, self-respect, and being able to advocate for yourself. Simply put, it really helps you to know yourself on a deeper level. And you really do get that benefit of a deeper connection with yourself no matter what way you track your cycle. So choose what's best for you. I just love to geek out over menstrual cycle awareness journaling. You can put so much of your personality into these entries. This example is just a very basic example of how to do this, but you can put so much of your heart into these entries, and I love that. I love how my menstrual cycle awareness journaling practices, these are all my journals, by the way, that I have out here. It has just helped me to know myself so much better and has developed such a strong connection between me and my inner voice. And I think it's just such a beautiful offering that our cycles offer us as women to like tap into. So with that being said though, choose whatever way sounds doable to you to track your cycle. Let me know in the comments how you would like to track your menstrual cycle. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, subscribe for more, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, loves!